Welcome to our deep dive into tariffs. Today, we'll explore what tariffs are, how they work, and their pros and cons. You see, tariffs are one of those things that sound incredibly boring, like watching paint dry or listening to a Ben Shapiro podcast, but they actually have a huge impact on our lives. They can determine whether you pay $20 or $50 for a t-shirt, or whether that delicious imported cheese you love suddenly becomes prohibitively expensive. So buckle up, because we're about to unravel the tangled web of tariffs and see how they affect everything from the price of your morning coffee to global trade wars. Let's start with the basics. What exactly are tariffs? In the simplest terms, a tariff is a tax imposed on goods imported from another country. Imagine it like this. A tariff is like that friend who always insists on paying for dinner with exact change, except instead of pennies, it's a percentage of the value of the goods being imported. These taxes are levied by the government at the border before the goods can enter the country. This means that importers, the ones bringing in the goods, are the ones who initially pay the tariff. But hold on, don't think for a second that importers are just going to eat that cost. Oh no, they're smarter than that. They pass that cost right along to you, the consumer, by increasing the price of the imported goods. So in the end, you're the one footing the bill for these tariffs. Now you might be wondering, why the hell would any government want to make things more expensive for their citizens? Well, tariffs are a form of trade barrier, and they're often used as a tool to protect domestic industries from foreign competition. Think of it like building a big, beautiful wall around your country's economy, except this wall is made of taxes, and instead of keeping people out, it makes it more expensive for foreign goods to get in. The idea is that by making imported goods more expensive, consumers will be more likely to buy domestically produced goods, thus supporting local businesses and jobs. Of course, in reality, it's not always that simple. Tariffs can also lead to higher prices for consumers, retaliation from other countries, and even trade wars. One of the main arguments in favor of tariffs is that they protect domestic industries from being undercut by cheaper foreign goods. The idea is that without tariffs, foreign companies, often with lower labor or production costs, could flood the market with cheaper goods, driving domestic companies out of business and costing people their jobs. And let's be clear, nobody wants to see factories shutting down and people losing their livelihoods. But are tariffs really the best way to protect domestic industries? Some argue that instead of propping up industries with tariffs, governments should focus on investing in innovation, education, and infrastructure to make their domestic industries more competitive on a global scale. After all, a rising tide lifts all boats, right? Now, let's talk about another reason why governments love tariffs: revenue. Tariffs can be a significant source of income for governments, especially in countries with large import markets. Remember those taxes we talked about earlier? Well, that money goes straight into the government's coffers. They can use that money for all sorts of things, from funding public services like education and healthcare to building roads and bridges. Of course, the amount of revenue generated by tariffs depends on a variety of factors, including the tariff rate, the volume of imports, and the elasticity of demand for the goods being taxed. But tariffs aren't just about protecting domestic industries or generating revenue. Oh, no, they can also be used as a bargaining chip in international trade negotiations. Imagine two countries sitting down at a poker table, each holding a stack of tariffs as their chips. They go back and forth, raising the stakes, threatening to impose tariffs on each other's goods. This is the high-stakes world of international trade, where tariffs are used as leverage to try to secure better trade deals. Countries might threaten to impose tariffs on another country's goods in order to force them to lower their own tariffs, open up their markets, or change their trade practices. It's a delicate dance, and one wrong move can lead to a full-blown trade war. So we've talked about what tariffs are and why governments impose them. But how do they actually work? Let's break it down. When a good is imported into a country that imposes tariffs, the importer of that good has to pay a tax, the tariff, to the government. This tax is usually a percentage of the value of the good, but it can also be a fixed amount per unit. For example, if a country imposes a 10% tariff on imported cars and a car is imported with a value of $20,000, The importer would have to pay $2,000 in tariffs to the government before the car can enter the country. This added cost is then typically passed on to the consumer through higher prices. Now, tariffs aren't one size fits all. There are actually different types of tariffs, each with its own unique characteristics. First up, we have ad valorem tariffs, which are levied as a percentage of the value of the imported good. Think of it like a sales tax, but for imports. Then there are specific tariffs, which are a fixed amount charged per unit of imported good regardless of its value. This is like paying a flat fee per item, no matter how much it costs. And finally, we have compound tariffs, which are a combination of both ad valorem and specific tariffs. This is like ordering a combo meal at a fast food restaurant. You get a little bit of everything. Like most things in life, tariffs have their pros and cons. On the one hand, they can protect domestic industries, generate revenue for the government, and be used as a bargaining chip in trade negotiations. But on the other hand, they can also lead to higher prices for consumers, retaliation from other countries, and even trade wars. It's a delicate balancing act, and there's no easy answer when it comes to tariffs. The impact of tariffs can vary widely depending on a variety of factors, including the specific goods being taxed, the tariff rate, the economic conditions of the countries involved, and the responses of businesses and consumers. To truly understand the impact of tariffs, let's look at some real-world examples. One recent example is the trade war between the United States and China, which saw both countries imposing tariffs on billions of dollars worth of each other's goods. This tit-for-tat tariff battle had a significant impact on global trade, disrupting supply chains, raising prices for consumers, and creating uncertainty in the global economy. Another example is the European Union's tariffs on American products like bourbon, Harley-Davidson motorcycles, and Levi's jeans, which were imposed in retaliation for US tariffs on steel and aluminum imports from the EU. These tariffs have hurt American businesses and consumers alike, highlighting the interconnectedness of the global economy and the potential for tariffs to backfire. So, what does the future hold for tariffs? Well, that's the million-dollar question, and unfortunately, I don't have a crystal ball. The use of tariffs is a complex and constantly evolving issue, influenced by a myriad of factors, including geopolitical considerations, domestic politics, and global economic conditions. One thing is for sure, the debate over tariffs is far from over. As long as countries continue to trade with each other, there will always be disagreements over trade practices, and tariffs will likely remain a tool in their arsenals. Thanks for watching. If you have any questions about tariffs or want to see how they affect specific products, let us know in the comments. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more informative content. We've covered a lot of ground today, from the basics of tariffs to their impact on the global economy. But remember, this is just the tip of the iceberg. Tariffs are a complex and constantly evolving issue, and there's always more to learn. So I encourage you to do your own research, stay informed, and engage in meaningful conversations about the role of tariffs in our world. Because at the end of the day, tariffs affect all of us, whether we realize it or not.